I think it's pretty difficult to overstate how important community is in general, but in this context for getting better at Splatoon. I would say that my game knowledge is like 10% from like YouTube videos and other educational resources, and like 90% from direct DMs with higher level players or like conversations with people. Um, there's just so much wisdom out there that is only really passed through word of mouth. Um, and so if you don't have those connections, it's just a lot harder to improve. And having those connections doesn't, like, you don't necessarily need to be friends with these people. Like, I've cold DM'd so many high and even some top level players asking for advice, and for the most part, um, people have always seemed very happy and like willing to help. And I really do like this is I get so much advice from other people in like direct conversations. Like if I just try and list them out, I've talked to Renzel, Zero, Custom, Rose Arrow, Atlas, Bubbles. Oh, and I know I'm missing dozens of people. It's just such a like the way you learn things in this game is by talking to people. And so like having community, like being willing to talk to higher level players, but then also like getting lucky, and befriending higher level players is just, it does so much for you. Like I think just like being around higher level players, it just does a ton. So like for me in college, I met Lost, who's a pretty good Carbon player who's been in the comp scene for a long time. And she's like the #1 reason I improved at the game as quick as I did, because it's not just the advice she gave me, but also the social connections. Like she introduced me to her friends, and I like got in that like community. Holy lag, what is happening? Oh, I guess yeah, that's a lot of, so like Lost is how I met Rose Arrow, who gave me a ton of advice. She's how I met Haya, who's given me some good advice. Holy lag. So I met Bandit, who's given me some good advice. Like there are just so much of my improvement has come like indirectly from Lost just introducing me to people. I don't know how like one would go about making these social connections. Like I just got lucky and met her, right? But I think that if you don't make these connections and aren't around these people, it is a lot more difficult to improve. What even? Oh, I see. Like, and there it is. Like a little bit ago, in the last one of these talks, I talked about how somebody looked at one of my clips, said my reticle speed was low, and then that like improved my aim overnight. That's just like one of the things where there have been so many instances of high level players making offhand comments. Like they just say something in passing, and then it like completely changes how I think about the game, or like unlocks some piece of the puzzle that I was missing before. So like exposure to higher level players and like having those connections, I think is really, really important. It's also really, really helpful to be able to play with and against higher level players. The analogy I like to use a lot is it's um, like I've said puzzle pieces. A lot of the time Splatoon feels like a puzzle where you're trying to figure out what everybody is supposed to do and where they're supposed to go and whatnot. And when you're getting into the game in low level, nobody knows what they're supposed to do. So it's a lot harder to figure out what you're supposed to do, because like your enemies don't know what they're doing, so it's hard to perform like results-based analysis, because like sometimes your play works because it was the right play, and sometimes it works because the opponents are bad. And then also like sometimes a play works because it was the right play. Sometimes it doesn't work because it was the right play, but your teammates were doing the wrong thing. Sometimes like it just results-based analysis is a lot more difficult to perform in low level. And so that makes it very difficult to improve if you don't have more experienced players, higher level players, like looking at these moments and giving you their evaluation. And so it just like, if none of your teammates really know what they're doing, they don't know where their puzzle pieces go, it's a lot harder for you to figure out where your puzzle piece goes. But if you play in a lobby with higher level players, particularly with higher level players on your team, they know what they should be doing. And so it's very clear for you to see what you should be doing. Like for example, like maybe I don't know where I'm supposed to be playing on hold, but like in a low level, like people will just go to random places because they don't know what they're supposed to be doing on hold. But like in higher level lobbies, they will just go to where they think they should be on hold, and that'll leave like an obvious gap in the formation of where you should be. And especially in terms of things like pacing, I think pacing is one of the big differences between low and high level. Like playing in higher level lobbies where people are fighting very quickly, like that gets you used to the pace you should be playing at. Because that level of pace kind of requires everybody to be doing it. It's like if we all run in at the same time, then the play will work out. And so in low level, like if one person tries to run in quickly, it might be too fast because their teammates aren't also doing that. And so it like discourages that pace, even though it might be the right pace. So I think that like playing with higher level players is just really, really valuable for improving. Like as Tan says, the best way to get better at Splatoon, like by far, is to get indoctrinated by high level players. So like for me, playing with Lost and Haya and Red Spy and Bandit and Boopy, like all of these players that I met through Lost and are like long-time high-level players, and it's just done so much for me, like not just in the advice they've given me, but just like the act of playing with them makes it easier for me to tell what I should be doing, and like I understand the game better when I play with them, even if they don't say anything to me about, even if there's no direct education, just the act of being alongside them makes the game make more sense. And then also, obviously, like the better the opponents you fight, the better practice it is for you, right? Because like, I mean, yeah, it's all about pattern recognition, and the better your opponents, the more realistic the patterns you're running into will be. More realistic in the sense of like, the more it'll match how the game actually works on like a fundamental level. Like there's less, and then it just didn't work because, you know, they might like, or then you get the point. And it's just like harder to consistently fight those higher level players if you're not very good. Like, obviously this is why like open level tournaments are so good and so important, is because open level tournaments are a way to consistently fight higher level players. And I think that if you are not playing in open level tournaments when you are in low level, then you are... Oh no. If you're not playing in low level or in open level tournaments when you're in low level and you're stunting your growth. And there's nothing wrong with that if like you're not trying to get better. No shame. But if you are trying to get better, you should play in open levels so that you can consistently fight higher level players. But at a certain point, tournaments aren't an amazing source of practice, just because it's so much time. And like you're only really going to play like a best of 3, or am I gonna get DC'd again? This is really bad. You're only going to be able to play like a best of 3 or a best of 5 against like 1 or 2 good teams. Whereas the much more efficient form of practice is scrims, where you can play for like an hour against one like set of good players. But it's just like hard to get those scrims against good players if you aren't as good yourself. Obviously some teams will be willing to scrim down. And I think it's like good for the community as a whole for teams to be willing to scrim down. But it is like objectively less productive for the better team to be fighting a worse team. And often I think it can be less fun. So it's a bit more difficult to get consistent practice against good players if your team isn't very good. And so like fighting or playing with good players yourself is potentially beneficial in the sense that you're more reliably able to fight good players. So yeah, like all in all, I would say that the community is so important for Splatoon, and I would attribute most of my improvement in this game to the friends and connections I've made. So I don't know, like again, like I got lucky meeting Lost. I don't think there's like a reliable and consistent way of making high level friends, but just like putting yourself out there and being in the community and trying to make those friends is just so valuable. So do it if you can. Anyway, that's all from me. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.